1768, a Scottish traveler named James Bruce went to Egypt, determined to find the source of the Nile River, which he believed was located in Ethiopia. He then crossed the Red Sea and went to Mesopotamia. From there, he traveled to Gondar city, which was then the capital city of Ethiopia. In Gondar, he gathered a small party and went in search of the true source. After climbing 3,000 meters, he found what is to be the true source of the lower Ababa in November 4, 1770. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. I was born and raised in Addis Ababa. Everything I know about the significant places of our country is limited to what I read on books or what I saw on TV. I only had very few first-hand experiences of these special places. Lucky for me, I now have a job that allows me to travel to all parts of Ethiopia. I remember the first trip I took in my work. The director of the agency I worked for, the Korea International Cooperation Agency, was invited as a guest of honor to Bahar Dar. She was invited to attend the opening ceremony of the university's first festival. So she and I went to Bahar Dar bearing gifts of food. However, the ceremony was on that Saturday afternoon and we had nothing to do the entire morning. So we decided to visit the Addis Ababa waterfall, located on the Blue Nile or the Ababa River. Yes, the Ababa River. The river that contributes more than 80% of the water to the Nile River. The river that allowed the ancient Egyptians to flourish and build their pyramids. The river that many Ethiopian kings threatened to block to keep Egypt in check. The river that made Egypt invade Ethiopia a century ago and made Emperor Yohannes fight them to victory. So I'm sure you can imagine how excited I was that we decided to visit the Addis Ababa waterfall. On the evening of our first day in Bahar Dar, my boss and I wanted to have dinner at a very unique place in Bahar Dar. And what unique place is there more than the very source of the Ababa or the Nile River, that Lake Tana? So we went to the restaurant in Kurirtu Resort, which is located next to the lake, of course. And what a breathtaking place it is. The entire resort is organically designed to sit in a perfect harmony with the surrounding environment. It was positioned in a perfect direction, in the northern eastern direction, to allow the entire resort to have a very special view. And the restaurant, well, you'll be deceived at first by its appearance as a very giant, well, funny-looking traditional hut. But when you enter, you will be greeted by a very enormous space that has a high ceiling and a very wide view of the lake. However, I was not excited about the resort, of course. I was excited about the lake. So when we arrived at the resort, I ran to the retaining wall that was separating the lake from the resort. And I stood there for 20 minutes, gazing at the lake that extends beyond the horizon. I stood there listening to the sound of the wind blowing the water back and forth, back and forth. Then I bent on my knees and stretched my arm very low to the lake and put my hand into the water. Now I have a first-hand experience. The next morning, well, my boss and I, with one Korean person who was living in Bahar Dar, set off to the Addis Ababa waterfall. We had to drive about an hour first on a bumpy dirt road. And the terriers we rented could barely stay on the ground. So we were driving, bouncing up and down like a bunny rabbit, with dust blowing up in the sky. After an hour, we arrived at a checkpoint where we had to pay to see the waterfall. The two Koreans that were with me had to pay 20 birr each, while I had to pay only 3. So I guess that's the privilege of being an Ethiopian. But next we had to cross the river, which was about 80 meters wide, with a boat. And as we were crossing, I could see the river stretching to the farthest reaches, swirling like a giant snake. Then we had to hike for about 30 minutes. And as I was walking, I could imagine the magnificent sight that was awaiting. All the videos that I saw on TV about the waterfall kept flashing back to me. I kept seeing the image of the 100 meters wide waterfall cascading down as the Nile River enters the Nile Pen. I kept seeing the image of the steamy smoke that was creating when the water was hitting the base of the dam. So now I was working faster. I was way ahead of the Koreans. At some point I was even running. Then I reached at the water. The first thing that came to my mind was, what? Who turned off the waterfall? I was expecting to see 100 meters wide waterfall, but the waterfall I found was barely 5 meters wide. But soon after, I discovered that the volume of the water was reduced because of the newly built hydroelectric dam. They had to divert most of the water to the dam before it could re-enter its original course. Nevertheless, it was a very magnificent sight. Well, it took James Bruce several months to reach the source of the Nile, while it took me only 1 day. He had to cross the Red Sea with ships, while I only had to fly. He had to battle malaria for several weeks. He even had to battle the dangers of climbing 3,000 meters. But I only had to battle a bumpy dirt road. So I know what you're thinking. I didn't have as much an adventure that James Bruce had. However, like him, I was there too. Toastmasters.